Is this thing on? Okay. All right. So a couple things that I want to talk about right here. First and foremost, the reason why for this setup is because for this video, I have written so much to the point that I do not want to animate so much on Microsoft Paint. I actually animated all of my drawings on Microsoft Paint for this series, and I don't want to sit there for hours to animate it. So this is probably the best compromise I can come up with, while trying to get this video done as soon as possible. And the reason why as soon as possible is because I've been working on this video for about almost 2 months now. Actually, it's been almost 6 months now. Fuck me. And if I don't get this done right now and leave it in my folder for a long time, I will never touch it ever again. So this is how we're going to finish it, all right? With that note, hi loves, welcome back, and welcome back to another episode of Sounds of Love. So in this series, I would like to highlight the stuff of what makes K-pop groups sound good and what makes songs sound good. And if there's one thing that K-pop artists do really well is that, the things that they do really well will be highlighted in this series. Today, I'm going to be talking about a very special group that has just came out with a second part of their first full-length album, and that is cravity. Woo! With the release of their first LP, second half, Liberty in Our Cosmos, I like to point out one thing that cravity does the best, and that is... Look, you guys, I don't know how much of it is going to sound awkward or not because I have a script right behind this camera as we speak and I'm trying to read from it, but also I'm trying to not sound like I'm reading from a script. So if I sound awkward in this video, apologies, but I find it hard to learn from a script. So yeah, this is how it's supposed to go right now, okay? I want to highlight a key feature in Gravity's discography that they nail every single time. And those subtle add so much to the discography and makes them stand out from the pack. Guys, I want to be able to finish this, oh my goodness. We're going to be taking a look at the art of using dynamics in songs, which is something surprisingly not commonly used in pop music these days. I'm not so sure if it's because of the up-tempo nature of such pop songs, but to maintain a certain momentum, or it's because, songwriters are being scared of ruining the melodic flow of the song. It could be both really, like the reason why they don't use dynamics too often in songs. But if done right, dynamics add so much personality into a song. And even if the song might sound like it's been done before many times, dynamics really add so much flavor, They're like the, spice, flavoring, seasoning. Yeah, seasoning. There are, of course, many ways one can inject character into a song. I've covered one of those methods before in the first episode of Sounds of Love, where Mireille does sound design in their songs to make it sound better and spice it up a song. And just like that, Gravity's use of dynamics allows them to better demonstrate their versatile vocal ranges as well as breathing life into lyrics that may otherwise sound unconvincing. How so? Let's find out. Join me as we discover the art of using dynamics with Gravity.
It's time to get there. Adrenaline going. Baby, give me one shot.
Chapter 1. What are dynamics? Of course, you guys have been watching this video and it's like, Yasmin, what are dynamics? Can you tell us what dynamics are? I will tell you because I love you. And I want you to learn new things with me. Yay. Of course, we gotta start somewhere, right? What are dynamics? In the simplest way I can explain, dynamics is just a fancy word for loudness and quietness in a music. In classical music, dynamics are notated by the symbols F and P. Let's just imagine that we have a line right in front of us. And on one end of the spectrum, we have the quiet, which is the piano. And on the other end of the spectrum, we have the forte, which is the loud. Somewhere in between, we have the mezzo piano and the mezzo forte, which means moderately quiet and moderately loud, respectively. There are also notations for super loud and super quiet by adding the number of Fs and Ps at the back of each other. So if you want to say super duper quiet, you just add a bunch of P's in it, depending on how quiet you want it to be. And subsequently, if you want it to be loud, you can add a number of F's, as many as you want, to make it seem like how loud you want to be, And of course, there's the two standard notations for very loud and very soft. You have the PP, You have PP, which is pianissimo, which means very quiet, and FF, fortissimo, means very loud. There are also these symbols that look like very long arrows. The Pac-Man with the mouth facing to the right means that the music will get louder and louder, or crescendo. And the Pac-Man with the mouth facing on the left, on the other hand, means the music will get softer, which is decrescendo. So these are the words that you're going to learn today for this video. Just keep that in mind because we're going to need to use that a lot in this video. Dynamics are a pretty arbitrary measurement in music actually. Unlike tempo, which you can measure by the beats per minute. Wait, hold on. This is how you measure tempo. We have a meter for measuring tempo, which is called a metronome. So that's how you measure tempo. So unlike that, which you can measure, that you cannot even measure dynamics. You know, the intensity of dynamics depends very much on your feelings. I mean, granted, it's not as absurd as playing a piano part loudly or whatever, but whatever you think is soft and loud is the measurement of dynamics. In orchestral music, dynamics are mostly used to indicate how much an instrument player should play. And the abundance of use of dynamics is what makes orchestral music sound very dramatic or very romantic either way. And depending on the period of which the piece came out, the dynamic range may vary. Earlier periods like the Baroque period may be considered less expressive and then those that came out in the classical or romantic or modern periods. But one thing's for certain, dynamics breathe character into the instrument playing, and thus also builds character for the entire song. These days, you don't see a lot of instrument playing in the music industry. Well, technically you still do, because singers are very pro instrument players, using their vocal cords. The primary instrument that these days singers use is their vocals, and the rule of dynamics can definitely apply for them as well. It mostly dependent on two things. One, the singer's natural timbre and vocal tone, and two, the intensity control of their vocal performance. It's just like how you whisper in the library when you're asked to stay quiet, like this. Hey, we're in the library right now, you cannot talk so loudly. Or when you speak loudly to command attention to your presentation. Hey, listen up, you know? I'm presenting over here. Hey, what's the back? I'm talking. Oh my god, shut up. Singers also control the intensity of their singing when the song needs them to. Of course, this section is very long, but trust me, the rest of the sections are going to be even longer. So hold on to your butts because we're about to learn how Cravity members utilize this dynamics very well. As, you know, grab some popcorn, grab some drinks. You know, I have water over here. Bon appetit! Chapter 2, a power duel. I'm not so sure how well all of you are acquainted with the members of Cravity, but just so we're on the same page for this chapter, here are two people you need to familiarize yourself with. Serim and Alan. Just take a good hard look at them. You know. When it comes to rapper duos in K-pop groups, the main focal point that usually contrasts one from another is often the vocal tones. And a common archetype of such duo is the high tone and low tone dynamic. Plenty of groups do that, having usually one member in charge of the high pitch and the other member in charge of the low pitch. It's usually like that, you know. It doesn't necessarily have to be 2 rappers. I've seen groups of 3 rappers. I've seen groups of 4 rappers. It depends on the group actually, but most of the time you will have a high pitch rapper and a low pitch rapper. And of course, there are also some instances where rappers have identical tones and nuances of each member can be picked up using either their rhythmical patterns or their timbre, the way that they rap, in what kind of beat that they do, or what kind of voice that they have, the timbre, the quality of voice that they have. That is also a nuance that you can pick up when it comes to rapping voices. The timbre will be the springboard for our 2 main characters of this chapter. If I were to characterize each of their rapping styles, I would describe them like this. Both of them sound very identical in pitch, but Serim's timbre is much more smokier in texture and almost on the cuffs of whispering at times when rapping in this regular intensity. When a song does call for stronger emphasis, his rapping gets more and more accented. The way he accents his timbre is highlighting several keywords at a time, in a slightly louder volume. Alan, on the other hand, is a very crystal clear, sharp, teeny, textured voice and better articulation of words in his verses, specifically English words given his background. You know, he's from the States, so of course he has a better articulation of the English language. And he's much more lively in timbre and handles high-intensity rap portions with clarity. Both rappers represent an end of the dynamic spectrum. Serim is on the quiet end of the spectrum and Alan's on the loud end of the spectrum. The contrast in dynamics between these two is what makes Gravity's songs much more colorful, and some of the most stellar performances come from how well they use their timbres to execute story beats in the song.
Your turn, 바다바톤 바람을 타 두 볼을 감싸 Catch on my vibe, 담그다 지금 그저 작은 경 Here we go. Hey. Yeah, 모든 시선이 다 쏠려 보자마자 풀려버린 두 다리가 떨려 뼛속까지 느껴진 이 tension Like a mammoth 가는 길이 달라 infinite direction.
And in some instances, the rappers share a verse together, and you automatically can spot the contrast between the two. That is from a stylistic standpoint.
천천히 올라가 we ride or down 우리 빠르게 가도 break 절대 밟지 않아 천천히 올라타봐 every night 이렇게 빠르게 가는데도 no break Keep it tight in the booth making moves Every night 내 일을 위해 싸워내 Lovers gonna love it 너네 위에 can't stop 그려낼래 피카소 경악을 금치 못하는 flow Take a scene and take a note 홀로 외쳐야 I wanted something new.
The best moments from the two come from when their rap styles can also be reflected in the music production. What? Why are you looking at me like that? What? Oh. Case study 1, Adrenaline. So Adrenaline is their most recent song, and there's a lot of things they do right with Adrenaline, but this is the part that I want to highlight the most. As soon as the second verse enters, you are greeted with Seren's calm yet still intense rap, with similar percussive beats as the first verse, yet minimal yet extremely punchy sound design to support accented lyrics.
They're trying to tell me that I'm crazy cause I be fast 감각이 둔해 전에 숨소리가 빙 거칠어져 팽창해도 knock pumping out the pain 느껴 감싸 내 덤이
Alan then comes firing in all cylinders through the second half of the verse, where the production gets amped up to 11, the rhythm becomes double time, more things are going on with the instrumental, whether it's an added instrumental or a sound design, the music goes crazy in that part.
Like a fight scene 짜릿한 느낌 내 맘 안에 adrenaline 몰아치는 lightning 너는 내게 급속히 온몸으로 타 퍼져가는 venom 너라면 기꺼이 overdose.
The music production is designed in a way that is literal definition of calm before the storm. But more importantly, it highlights the contrast between the two rappers' voices, propelling the song to newer heights, giving the listener something exciting to hold on to in the second verse. So we briefly have observed the synergy of these two when thrown into the same verse. But these contrasting dynamics have more to offer in a song when they're not in the same verse, which leads on to chapter 3. Okay, if you guys hear construction noises, I'm sorry, but like there's construction noises going on in all sides, you know? So I hope they're not too forte for you. Chapter 3. Surprise! Sometimes Sarah and Alan aren't even rapping in sequence with one another. Some of their parts can be deliberately placed in random points of a song, but their contributions can also serve the storytelling of a song. And the contrast can still be felt. How do they achieve this? Juxtaposition. Wait, what's that word again? Juxtaposing loud, brash yelling with near pin drop silent whispering is a party trick that works on me every single time. And that is a party trick that they also like to use a lot in their songs.
Gravity. Get closer. 내 손을 잡아 네가 있는 곳으로 I can't jump it out. 하고 뛰어날아올래 우리 jump. 새로운 여기서 난 중심을 지켜나가. Will no fall back 이게 우리만의 방식. 저 위험을 drop out. I'm a savage. 정해진 틀을 깨버리는 게 habits.
Reason why this trick works is because in most instances, we are conditioned to expect a high level of energy unless the song alludes to a gradual change in dynamics to ease us better. However, the best moments in the song are often the most surprising. We don't ask for a change in dynamic in the song, but especially after reading the lyrics, they serve the story beat and act out the scenario accordingly. It's also a jarring contrast that adds flair of drama, just like classical music pieces that accent certain points. One of the most famous examples in classical music is one that I learned from Two Set Violin. In one of their videos, The Dumbest Troll Classical Music Pieces Ever, they talk about one of Haydn's pieces, Surprise Symphony number 94, number 2 Andante, which is actually a pretty famous piece. I might have heard that from a video game before, or might have learned how to play the piece from a piano at one point in my life. No idea, but that's not the point. The point of is this part right here. Rumor has it that Haydn saw someone falling asleep during one of his performances, and you know that part of the piece is the second movement with a very slow pace, as Andante is the performance direction for slow. So of course, someone is going to feel bored as hell, right? Of course, with a very slow piece, sure fall asleep in the audience, right? Haydn did what any sane individual would do when he heard someone dozing off mid-song. He pranked them. Yeah, get wrecked, mate. Yeah. Also, information that is somehow new to me is this. A good amount of classical musicians wrote music as a form of comedy. These days, we have digital media to feed us comedy in many different forms, whether visual or audio or even both. But back then, they didn't even have TVs or YouTube, so the way civilians get their daily dose of humor was through operas and music plays. The new style was also encouraged by changes in the economic order and social structure. As the 18th century progressed, the nobility became the primary patrons of instrumental music, while public taste increasingly preferred comic opera. This led to changes in the way music was performed. End quote. Composers like Mozart and Haydn were pretty much considered meme boys at the time, using their compositions as the way to tell jokes and bring laughter to many. They used many techniques to achieve such, but one key component to the delivery of humor without speech was dynamics. Abrupt changes in dynamics paired with really good timing is able to convey the tonality of natural, humorous conversation without any semblance of actual conversation at all. It's like how you emphasize certain words to highlight key points to add interest to a sentence. I like to use a sentence in my lessons. So 300 students scored straight A's in their exam. And when you emphasize a certain key point, it becomes 300 students scored straight A's in their SPM. So people register the straight A's faster, you know? Yeah, I think I talk about this in my The Chaser video, so you can go watch that if you want to. Or if you want to use it in the comedic context. So, trains. Am I right?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
It is similar to music as well. Certain points of the song are accented for effect, whether that accent is extreme loudness or extreme quietness. And this is a segue to another song, which is also the second case study of this analysis. Look, we're going to have a lot of case studies here. Case study 2, Pow. Pow, 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 pow. I'm not so sure if this is an overstatement, but I would consider cravity to be the modern day, heavily electronic equivalent to classical opera. Or at the very least, they treat their music like candid stories told by your friends, mostly in a jovial, humorous Gen Z fashion. Complete with memes too. Pow is a combination of everything that offer us. Excellent songwriting, dense production, and just enough humor. Don't you like humor in this house? We all like humor in this house, am I right? Yay! Humor! We love humor in this house, right?
Give me an L! Give me an A! Give me a U-G-H! What does that spell? Laugh!
Laugh! At its core, Pow is about being unable to control the urges of love and feelings under that machismo stoic facade. The character they are playing at this opera starts off by making an entry statement using bold drums to emulate footsteps. Boom. Boom.
Hey. Yo, people freaking out, we do it like...
The stomping imagery immediately paints the character as a menacing type, akin to a giant in the folklore. Yes, we're talking about folklores right now, you guys. Jack and the Beanstalk. We're talking about fairy tales again, you guys. We love fairy tales in this channel, am I right? As Jack enters the abode of the massive individual, you hear the giant saying this. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. Okay, the scary thing is I actually remembered every single part of that chant, and that gives me chills every single time. This shit haunts my nightmares as a kid. Like, are you sure some of these children's tales are actually made for children? And human dust bread? Like, you want to grind his bones as bread? Ew, gross. Fee, fi, fo, fum doesn't actually bear any sort of meaning, more so that it's merely a set of onomatopoeia. There are many speculations of the origins of the chant, some of the roots being in Scandinavian, Gaelic, Old English, among others. But there is not a single consensus of the true origin of the phrase, so people just now assume that fee, fi, fo, fum means silly words spoken by a silly big man. Gravity's choice of words for their main hook, however, is just one singular onomatopoeia, pow. The word used to describe the sound of a massive explosion. You hear them repeat this word time and time again across all choruses in somewhat obnoxiously loud demeanor. It actually serves the narrative here. Similar to how the giant chants fee, fi, fo, fum when he senses the presence of a measly individual, gravity chants pow, 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 pow when they find actual feelings of attraction surge through their system. Both objects to the characters seem insignificant and that they can easily squash them with both of their thumbs. The constant push and pull between dynamics in the song can be seen throughout this piece, but they all lead to the narrative of the constant turmoil between putting up a badass exterior while continuously surrender to the feelings of love. Moments of calamity like the pre-chorus are immediately cut out with brash yelling in the chorus.
끝이라 생각한 순간 And we go
My favorite moment is in the climax during the bridge where they finally put a word to this feeling that they've been trying to identify throughout this song.
천국과 지옥 사이 게임 빠져들어 like 인생에 So I call it love
What they do about this information? They erupt in fury. You hear them add percussion. The members go in absolute ape shit. Jack chopped down the beanstalk with an axe, and the giant just wah. And Cravity finally admits their feelings of love to the one they're attracted to. Oh yeah, you thought I forgot about Sarah and Alan? I didn't, don't worry. I didn't forget about them. Kinda, I don't know. What do you guys get? Something I like about this song is both of their roles seem to reverse. So you can hear the level of intensity needed to execute the rap roles they were given. The first rap is much sharper, while the second rap is much more dangerously muted. You would think that given of the natural cadence, Alan would have the first rap and Seren would have the second rap. But that's not what happened here. Now, Seren's harsh delivery is carrying the first rap, which the end product sounds like someone muttering a villainous monologue through gritted teeth. Like, I'm gonna destroy the hero, His knack for adapting keywords works in this favor as well. So the way that he accented lyrics usually that I said earlier, it works in this favor as well, The second rap is much more lower intensity than, Alan's register, but what makes this part sound so good is the dynamics. Both rappers are very good at elevating whatever text they're given, and Alan's slightly better storyteller for me.
첫눈에 감이 like wow 네 심장은 need it right now picture perfect smile 겁먹은 네 모습에 한 방을 날려 이제 긴장 풀어
Okay, hold on. I need to enlarge this text because I can't see jack shit. Oh my god. For a brief moment, he delivers a line about intimidating the person they're attracted to as a defense mechanism to continue putting up the facade of a character. Whisper bit definitely mimics natural conversation to the T, but it also reminds me of the moment where the villain leaves the heroes to deal with whatever havoc they wreaked on the crime scene. He injects musicality and authentic conversational cadences with every word spoken, and the line has no right to work as well as it did, but it did, and that's why I like it so much. Oh yeah, Woobin and Taeyong did a really good job in carrying the narrative into the pre-chorus, bringing a sense of false calamity into thinking the character has successfully evaded their inner feelings. Now note how the instrumental briefly strips itself down as soon as Taeyong says, "You're done," followed by a response of affirmation by Woobin, "You're done." Genius storytelling, I tell you. Wait, is that a segue to the next character? What? Chapter 4, The Best of the Rest. Cravity has 9 members. Wait, that's not 9. Cravity has 9 members. That's still not 9, but that are equally good at elevating whatever text they're given. I am not content with only 2 members executing the lines perfectly while the rest just recites theirs like a student being asked to stand up and read a paragraph in English class. No member is left behind. That is the main philosophy of Cravity. No member is left behind. Every single member matters. They all contribute to something, to a song, even if it's something trivial or incidental to the narrative. Earlier, when I talked about Taeyong's "You're done" part, it's merely a tiny component from a larger chunk of the verse, but not one single second did he waste that phrase at all. His vocal color is just enough to supplement the tone needed to execute the sentence. So speaking of vocal colors, I'm bringing back the spectrum of loudness again. So we're going to bring back this line over here. Line. Line. I will now refer to as the Cravity scale. We already have placed Alan and Serim on opposite ends of the spectrum. Alan is the forte and Serim is the piano. Now let's take a look at how I personally locate the rest of the members on the dynamic scale. So looking from the piano side, I have another person who I think is even softer than Serim. That is Sunmin. Songmin represents pianissimo. The quality Songmin brings to songs is mostly mellow and delicate, with his voice locating on the higher register. Because of that, a lot of the story beats he's given tends to be more tiptoe-like and hushed than anything, and his contributions give even more dynamic depth to the song.
어떻게 바꿔야 할지 그냥 난 이대로가 편해 겁내지 말고 빛을 향해 달려가 닿을수록 찬란해질 테니 오늘 모아 하늘에 빌어 Only keep it real I am 구름아 뿜어 V12 engine ready to zoom.
In an interview they did with Elle for Song Association, the members briefly mentioned how the opening seconds for Bad Habits was initially given to Alan, before realizing his cadence didn't fit the delivery of the line.
제 번째가 아니었단 말이에요. 처음 시작부가 거의
누구였어? 원래
원래
나였어.
엘런형이었는데 그 부분이 좀 어려웠던 것 같아요.
아니 되게 잘했는데 처음에 저한테 시켰는데 제가 너무 약간 뭔가 제 목소리가 안 맞아가지고 성민이한테 줬는데 잘 했더라.
그래요.
It was later decided they would have to pass this opening line to Songmin. This anecdote further supports my points of how Songmin is perfect for either setting the tone of the song or providing dynamic dissonance in songs with contrasting tonalities. You can easily recognize his voice when put side by side with the other members because it's how fragile it sounds. The precious glass, it's like precious glass that needs to be handled with care. As I said earlier, dynamics are pretty arbitrary measurements, so it's hard to define what exactly mezzo piano and mezzo forte sounds like. It is mostly based on personal definitions in the end. I would put Jungmo, which is second member I'm going to talk about, as mezzo piano, as the story beats he is given are mostly to establish the listener's ears with noise right off the bat. It's not too quiet, but it's just mid-level enough to ease the listeners in. A lot of the first lines in song are given to him for that reason.
Top of the chain, 어둠 속에 가는 내 saber 긴장하게 등장한 내 새로운 challenger Raise me up, 내게만 느껴지는 gravity 점점 더 짙어져 feeling 끝없이 오른 열기 번지는 뜨거움 흩어지는 현실 선명한 이건 꿈
And then we have Wonjin and Minnie. It's hard to place where in the scale they belong on, but again, this is very personal. They interchange between mezzo piano and mezzo forte a bit frequently. Both their vocals have a malleable quality, but they can supplement the story beats in the text very nicely. Minnie's voice in particular leans a little more into mezzo forte for me because in some songs, he acts in tandem to the main vocal parts.
Come to me 거침없이 move 맘을 흔들어 속삭여 talk to me
While in other songs, he serves as a building block to stack intensities against each other, either by contrast
아슬해진 시간 위를 건너가 더 빨리 꿈이 더 커져 1, 2, 3 숨을 크게 쉬고 come with me
or concurrently with vocal parts of similar cadences.
굳이 가릴 생각은 없어 when and where 거침없는 움직임
He's that one person Fun in Some Nights said that they wish their lips could build a goddamn castle. That just wishes they could be Minnie, but they can never be him, and that's a fact. I'm taking a brief detour into his contributions to the short-lived boy group X1 and their debut title Flash, where he displays some serious vocal chops against titans like Seungwoo and Seungyeon. Like, for real, this part right here is the most perfect example of Minnie using his voice to stack higher intensity vocal parts together one after the other, climbing towards the climax of the song that hits like a goddamn falcon punch to the stomach. Bro, I can't believe his best display of vocal charisma was an X1 of all places, and no one acknowledged it? Not on my watch. Y'all should acknowledge Minnie, oh my goodness. When I say Minnie, you said underrated vocalist. Minnie. Heck yeah, you guys, heck yeah. Can you guys not? So from this point onwards, I have my friend and fellow content creator Is of B1B to help me with the next tree. So a big thank you to her. I'm grateful for her help. Wonjin's vocal tone is very versatile and yet another underrated MVP of this group. I believe I can put him right in the center of the scale as a balancing midpoint of it all. We should look at that. He's also the middle child of the group. How befitting. He either works alongside the other members to whatever tonality they supplied,
Something different, hey. 뭔가 다른 이 느낌. 푸른 바다처럼 깊어. 우리 색은 더 짙어질 테니. 사라진 눈빛. 내 몸을 감싸는 싸늘한 공기. 결국 final stage. 날카로운 손끝. 선택의 순간이 오면 고도선 감각. 여긴 outer space. Question till we die. 꿈처럼 달콤해 this my life. Heaven like 빛을 따라 올라가. I'ma make you feel so amazing. 올라타봐 I'ma make you feel yeah.
or he can hold his own spectacularly.
정상 위로 별을 따라 we climbing. 올라가. 내가 보여줄 테니.
To paraphrase what is said about him, whether it's a low or a high part, he will deliver on it to make himself notice, which is exactly why he's such a perfect bridging point for dynamics to flourish in the songs. Kind of like a bridge between dynamic and dynamic. Are Hyunjin and Taeyong to put on the scale right now? Yes. For this purpose, I'd like to have level Alan up to fortissimo section of the scale. It just felt right to me at this time since he tend to be the spearhead a lot of the shouty portions in the songs. Hyunjin will go in mezzo forte and Taeyong is in the forte section. In most Cravity songs, you don't get to hear Hyunjin showcase a lot of vocals all too much as he's mostly a sub-vocal or a sub-rapper of sorts. That doesn't mean his contributions are to be ignored. No. As hard it is to pinpoint what exactly he represents tonally, he does accentuate portions quite well.
Now just can't stop. Got eyes straight drop. Wake up, 멈추지 않아. Wake up, 다음은 순간. 내 심장의 shot. Come on, give me one shot. One more shot. Come on, give me one shot.
He executes what half the K-pop industry refers to as killing points quite well. K-pop fans know this term well, I think, but for the non-K-poppies who stumble upon this catastrophe by happenstance and need a definition, a killing point is a short, punchy one-liner that is often quotable and memorable to the listeners. Wake up, and shot are very minor words in the grander songs, but Hyunjin's surprisingly deep timbre injects so much musicality into these parts with as much or as little emphasis as the song needs to. The shot also introduces a new term for this video called sforzando. The word sforzando translates to suddenly with force in Italian. It's a surprise tool in the dynamic spectrum to indicate a sudden accent on the note. And then we move over to Taeyong. No, not that Taeyong from Turning Red in the Four Town group, you know.
Taeyong fosters injured doves.
Even though their songs fucking slap for a fictional cartoon boy band, demolish all of your K-pop opars. Taeyong has earned his spot in the 40 position as whenever he comes to any song, he just...
What a bubble, we got the moves. Yeah, it's don't snooze. 100% on my brain, no 절대 이해 못해. Yeah.
He just...
From the bottom to the top. Oh yeah, you know we're never gonna stop.
I like his cadence a lot, actually. He has a slightly nasalated tone which almost resembles much more of a teenage rapper who picked up Audacity one day and decided Gucci slides was the thing he's going to rap about. I swear I don't mean that in a bad way. I swear I don't mean that in a bad way. But it's heckin' cathartic to hear him coolly use his vocals to also add accent or even have his own little rap portion as a foundational tool for other rap parts to follow up or pick up the pace. He's also a Building Blocks member, like Minnie.
What you looking for, good day, got Monet. Got me praying, no sauce up heaven's gates.
And yeah, that's it. I've completed the Cravity skill. Looking pretty good, I say. Huh? What was that? Did I miss someone? Wait, who do I forget? Chapter 5, Ruby. Good God, did he manage to net up his own chapter. Brief disclaimer, I will be addressing this member both by Rubin and his nickname Ruby interchangeably. So Ruby is this nickname that the group uses for him. So just be on the same page and you don't think Ruby is the secret evil twin or something. Or he could be, heaven knows. He doesn't need any introduction for his singing ability. He commands every part he is given with power and he probably is the most recognizable voice for both fans and non-fans. I would say he is the one off the top of the main vocalist in the fourth generation, and that is the controller of every dynamic choice in Cravity songs. Just like the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, Ruby is the powerhouse of Cravity. Describing his voice, he carries a very hearty and full voice tone. When he's belting out high notes, his voice soars into the sky.
운명처럼 realize 이 순간 너와 날 realize 너와 불안했던 내 맘이 제자를 찾아 find me 기적처럼 realize 이렇게 서로의 곁을 채워내 I feel so high 하고 뛰어날아 우리 yeah.
But truly, there's a reason why he's in his own chapter, right? I would propose that Ubin is actually neither a forte or a piano, but rather an entity that encompasses the whole spectrum of dynamics. He complements the voices of every member supremely well, whether it's with the rappers,
끝없이 흘러넘치는 adrenaline 자유를 가려 이 순간 we're living it 이 기분 똑같이 all day 널 보면 두 배로 feeling 미치 뛰는 맥박에 너에게 닿길 멈추지 않게 터뜨려 high like a big rush of adrenaline
or with the sub positions like sub vocalists or sub rappers.
천국과 지옥 사이 게임 빠져들어 like insane yeah. So I call it love 끝내길 원한다면 심장을 부셔
Or with lead vocalists.
숨을 참고 셋을 쓰는 거야 느껴봐 펼쳐진 이 순간 바다 위로 diving Alright 금빛 모래사장과 너와 있는 이 시간
It encompasses every end of the spectrum. It's the true complementary tone for all types, earning a title of main vocalist. So that's it, the complete profiling of each member's dynamic contributions and their ranges, vocal ranges in songs, and how music production plays off of those. But we still have one last chapter to go through, the culmination of everything we have analyzed so far from this group, and how it's led us to this point. And yes, you better know that we're talking about this song again. Chapter 6, Gas Pedal, Gas Pedal, Gas Pedal. Ugh! Gas Pedal will forever be the monument of musical achievements thus far. It's too early to call it a magnum opus of theirs, but it's the closest thing they have to mastering the art of deconstructing pop music. The way music was dissected and reconstructed was through the flirtation with dynamics. There's a constant dissonance between eerie quietness and boldness and brashness. The dichotomy between loud proclamations of confidence and the creepy uncertainness of the melody make this song a landmark of the fourth generation. And why I'm surprised no one has any idea to plagiarize this more often. Like seriously, can Cravity have a chat with the rest of the industry to allow a little bit of plagiarism? Ah! There are many ways producers and members implement to elevate this text. I've mentioned about the song forms in my experimental songs video, but today we're going to talk about dynamics because there's a lot to unpack with Gas Pedal, and the song itself can be its own dissertation, TBH. From start to end, there isn't a point where the song is decorated with the usual melody and harmony line affair in most pop music. In fact, a lot of it is pretty avant-garde. The verses are pretty quiet, or mostly quiet, with nothing but minimalist bass and a few glitches, which is why Serims is the best person to open the song with.
Yeah, it's like a dream we're living 삶의 꽃이 피는 나를 비추는 저 해가 뜨거워지는
The pre-chorus introduces ambient synths into the mixture. Ambient synths? No, ambient synths, yeah. Yet it still sounds uncertain. I love the execution of the pre-choruses with Wonjin and Jungmo. I think their mezzo piano natures introduce this section nicely.
정상 위로 별을 따라 we climbing 올라가 내가 보여줄 테니 정상 위로 별을 따라 we climbing 올라가 네가 보여줄 테니
The second half of the pre-choruses are uniquely dynamic. We have Minnie in the second pre-chorus building onto the mezzo piano build-up, like building blocks. You know, he's a building blocks member, of course.
닿을 수 없는 한계까지 손을 뻗어봐 So please tell me that you're ready
But Taeyong in the first pre-chorus? Oh my god!
난 이 밤을 관통해 baby 소라사이 그런 고민하지 마 어서 올라타
He is a wild child. He said, yeah, let's introduce how badass we are before we lure them into the creep. I haven't begun to talk about Ruby yet, guys. I haven't even begun to talk about Ruby yet. The way the warping bass goes crazy in the bridge, descending in volume, he's over there giving a full crescendo feast.
녹아버릴 듯 뜨거운 신호 내 네가 새겨진 이유.
The constant back and forth between the whispering and shouting in the chorus is the highlight of the whole song. There's no real melody in this song other than what Ruby provided, but the main melody in the pre-chorus is a repetition of gas pedal, gas pedal, gas pedal, with a swift yet agile text painting of a moving car.
Tell me that you're ready. To the left now. Gas pedal, gas pedal, gas pedal. Run. 내게 미쳐. We're swerving all night. 밟아는 안 보여. 너밖에는 안 보여. Oh yeah. To the right now. Gas pedal, gas pedal, gas pedal.
I tell you, gas pedal can be beat. Stream gas pedal. Stream. Just stream. Chapter conclusion. Yay, conclusion. I actually didn't really write a proper conclusion for this one because I kind of just want to get this script done with like very quickly. What I wrote was the way Cravity deconstructs pop music through the use of dynamics is one that should be a textbook example used as a 4th gen framework. In a video of mine, I mentioned how the 4th gen leading into the 5th gen should be the era where the music goes beyond standard music forms, but rather finding ways to reinvent music in subtle yet interesting ways, not just idol pop, but all forms of pop music. There's a reason why Cravity is the definitive group of the 4th generation. They're not afraid. They're not afraid, they came with heat, and they're here to stay. That is it for this entire analysis. Honestly though, I hope this analysis doesn't sound too messy or too like all over the place, you know, because I actually just wanted to make a video about how awesome Cravity is as a group, and that I feel like, you know, they also have a place in this industry. I think that we are accustomed in the K-pop community that to expect like every single time like a group does something, you know, we are expected to look at them through critical lenses, you know, when in fact there's actually more to be appreciated through the individual identities of each K-pop group that is to be appreciated by. Because I truly believe that every K-pop group has something to offer in the table, and they have something to offer in terms of the voice they can provide for the K-pop industry and just sound in general. I truly believe that, you know, once we hear more and more diverse sounds and contributions to the art that is the text of K-pop, that we're able to elevate our discussions a lot more, and we're able to have these meaningful conversations about what makes K-pop so interesting to listen to. So yeah, go listen to Cravity if you haven't already. I don't know if this video will actually convince people enough or not, but if it's not convincing to you and you just like to watch this essay, that's perfectly fine too. I don't force you to stand them actually, but if you think that this video essay does convince you quite a little bit, do check them out. See if your music see the music to your liking or not. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next analysis. I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever it is. Until then, take care, stay safe, and as always, be excellent to each other. Bye, loves.